Stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned. I'm with the coach, John Brett.
And I'm here with the vet, Mr. Ian Griffin.
And we're here at the Jump Talk. Man, it's
Homestead.
gorgeous out.
Got a little rain earlier.
Yes.
Crazy.
So, Coach, I think it's time we unveil the Corona podcast.
The Corona, Chinese virus, Wuhan virus podcast.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take these things off. What do you think, Coach?
Yeah, let's do it.
But you can get one of these. I know everybody's trying to make us all have them all of a sudden out of nowhere, and even in places that if you're all by yourself all the time, you can get one of these at coachingthevet.com.
Yep.
So
They
text
actually
yourself.
fit pretty well.
They do fit
They're
very good.
adjustable on the side. That's the first one I've ever seen with an adjustment like that on the side.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Coach, the world don't know this yet, and we're about to unveil it. But you and I both had the coronavirus.
Absolutely.
As the wife calls it, you got the Roni.
You got the Rona.
Yeah, and I had mine back in end of September, and then you had it recently.
Yes, I've had it recently. Actually, my quarantine ended at the first of the week on Monday.
Yeah.
And so it was very interesting with some of the things that we had to change. And we'd be more than happy to talk about that. But I think it's different when you just hear about it on the news and there's a debate on one side or the other. Is it this? Is it the flu? Oh, it's overblown. Oh, it's not. Whatever, until you actually have it in your own house and you have to deal with it.
I will say is, up to that point, I didn't really know somebody close that had it until I contracted it. And to this day, I really don't know where I got it from because we really don't go out much. We come down here and do some podcasts. Got another friend I go see every now and then. That's really about it. I go to a restaurant if I need to go to a restaurant, if I'm traveling.
Yeah.
To point A to point B, but I don't do too much anything else, and I kind of stick to the confines of the attitude that trying to embrace the retired life.
Well, and I'm a little bit more out and about because with the two different professions that I do at the same time. This time of year, working in the prison, teaching high school subjects there. So there's 550 inmates at that location on top of the COs that work there. Then also being a football coach with a different school that, some of them are homeschooled, some are go to the private school. There's a lot of people there that we were around. We actually only had one game all year that was canceled due to COVID, which a lot of schools around here had multiple. Some started late. I was watching a game last night. It was hilarious to me. I was watching a game last night with two teams playing on the West Coast. One was 2-0, the other one was 0-0. I'm like, we just played our 11th or 12th game. So, crazy. But anyway, I don't really know where I got it. If I had to put my hand on it, it was probably at the prison. They shut us down a couple of days prior to me getting my first symptoms for a 2-week quarantine there. So I'm pretty sure that's where it was.
I will say for me, Coach, my biggest fear was affecting somebody that had a weak immune system. That was my biggest fear. I would hate to be known as the person that gave them the fatal disease, or something like that. That was my biggest worry.
And mine too. And we have a disabled son in our home that actually is very compromised because of his situation he has with cerebral palsy, being autistic, he's in a wheelchair. So that was one of the things we first said, what are we going to do? Was first to get me totally away from that person. Yeah. And then, my wife getting it within, finding out she tested positive in a couple of days. And we actually had to get her and I both away from him, which that's normally his caretaker at home. And then his caretaker that comes in the daytime wanted to immediately get away from us. So we have a 21-year-old daughter and a almost 17-year-old daughter that literally just stepped up, fed, bathed, put to bed, everything. This kid that's full service. So, but that's what you do as a family. That's what we found out, but we didn't really have we thought we had a plan, and it's kind of like the old Mike Tyson thing. You think you got a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
And then you're like, whoa, what's going to happen? But I'd be more than happy to tell you some of the things that I went through personally. It was not a good thing.
Well, so I will say on my side, similar is my daughter, who has our granddaughter, had just moved in the house with us, and just about a week prior, and she was expecting any day, to be honest, and I was petrified of infecting her, and so, and then we had our son Gunner, who's lives with us. He's 15, and the wife. And as soon as I found out that I got it, and at first I didn't know I had it, and I think we'll talk a little bit back and forth on those things. But for me, I thought I actually had a sore throat, and but the first night something heavy was on my chest. I felt like somebody sit on my chest.
Yes.
And then I went through about 5 days, and I thought I conquered it, and then it kind of turned for worse. And the wife says, you need to go get checked out for strep. And they said strep wasn't it, and they said the flu wasn't it. And they said, we're going to give you a corona test, and we'll let you know. You need to self-isolate for a while until we get the answer. And if you do have it, then you need to quarantine from your first symptoms. And what I'll say is what happened, as soon as I got home, I called the wife up, and fortunate for us, our bedroom is kind of at the end of the house, and there's a bathroom back there. So I stayed there, and she moved to the couch. I guess finally a man kicks the wife to the couch. That never hardly happens, to be honest. But she moved to the couch, and that's probably the best game plan we did. Is I never left the bedroom. And then the next 3 days actually took a deep toll on me, which we'll talk here in a minute.
Yeah.
So what about you, Coach?
Well, when I first found out that, I was going to take the test well, first of all, back up about 2 weeks prior, my daughter had some symptoms at school that were iffy at best. They were mostly stomach issues, which she has stomach issues. And so I get a call say, well, your daughter has to go home and she can't come back till she has a COVID test. Mm-hmm. So I take her to get a COVID test, 15-minute test. And I'm like, well, while I'm here, I'll take one because I'm around, the inmates all the time. And I came back good. Had no symptoms or anything at that time, but about a week later, started that Thursday where they were sending us home from the prison, and I already had a little scratchy throat, or starting to have a little scratchy throat. Allergies this time of year is what I thought it was, and but by that Monday morning, I knew that that it wasn't normal, and we weren't supposed to go back until Tuesday. So Monday I went and had a rapid test, and it came back positive, and then so they sent me directly to my doctor. Because we know the doctor, and they said, let's give him a test and have it sent off and make sure so it's documented. And so I went home and self-quarantined. We have a house kind of the same way where it's the end of the house is our bedroom, and then off of that bedroom we have like a little sun porch. So I had both that area, and I wasn't feeling too bad at that time. And it's funny, between our main house and our bedroom, there's like this barn door, and then we call it the chamber that has a room that it's like a safe room or whatever. And then we have another door that goes in our room. So Linda told me immediately, said, what we're going to do is we're going to put your coffee, we're going to put your food, anything you need goes into the chamber. So we'll let you know that we open the door, we put it in the chamber, we close the door, we yell at chamber's ready, then you can open the door if you need something, put it in the chamber. So we did that for a couple days. But by the time that I got my test, the 2-day test back, I was already feeling terrible. And I was not expecting. I've had the flu. Probably in my lifetime, thinking back, I remember having the flu 3 times pretty bad. So 3 or 4 times I've had the flu, and but nothing like this. This was not the flu to me. So immediately when the fever hit, the body aches hit, and the chest hit, all in the same day. I mean, I was chunking Advil every 2 hours and Tylenol every 2 hours, like Tic Tacs, just to keep my fever and body aches down. But like you said, it felt like someone had put their foot on my chest, and every breath it took, I had to labor to get the breath. And I slept one day 14 hours straight, got up and ate, and went back for a 6-hour nap because I had no energy to get out of bed. And so it was probably, in my lifetime, from a standpoint of being outside of stomach sickness, because I hate being stomach sick, the worst sickness I've ever had.
Wow. So, Coach, for me, in 30 hours, they called me and said, hey, you got the coronavirus. And I had to call my wife, and at that time, she had to notify where she worked at. And their nurse that they had was one top notch. She gave us some of the greatest advice. First day you had symptoms, back it up 2 days, count 14 days from there, and on. And when I left the doctor, though, I asked him, said, well, if I do have it, what'd I do? Well, and he says, you look good. And he says, we're not going to do a chest, but he listened to my lungs more than anybody ever has. Yeah. And he said, we're not going to do a chest x-ray because you sound good. He says, if you do have it, just keep doing what you're doing. And I was taking a Dayquil and Macquil regimen.
Yeah.
And I pounded that. I didn't have the chamber, though. I had the German wife. She came in and brought the food, took the food out.
She says she's tough.
Yeah, she's tough like that. So,
yeah.
But I will say about the day that I got pronounced that I had it is when it was taking probably the worst turn. And I had 3 days where anybody knows me, I only take 20 minutes. If I take a nap, it'll be 20-minute nap. That's it. I was sleeping all day long for 3 days, only to wake up to eat, and that was it. I'm talking. I was definitely sleeping 20 hours or 22 hours.
Yeah, the fatigue was not something I could even describe to people the type of fatigue. I used to play in bands years ago, and we'd work all week, and we'd play all night, and get home at 5 or 6 in the morning, and you would lay down, and you were just exhausted. Sometimes you'd just be kind of a hype, and you might not go right to sleep. I mean, this was the kind of thing, as soon as I put my head on the pillow, put myself in a fetal position, and wake up hours later, it was that type of fatigue.
The fatigue coach, my wife had a flat tire during the time, and she goes, I got a flat tire on the SUV, and I kind of went, honey, I can't change it right now. I need about 3 or 4 days. And anybody that knows me, I'm going to get my knuckles dirty. I'm going to go out there and do it. But if I would have changed that tire right then, it'd have put me down for another 5 days. I know it. It would have been the most exhausting thing that I probably experienced in months physically at that time. And I just couldn't do it.
Well, I do want to say one of the things, studying history, I have everybody knows, anybody knows that John Adams is my favorite president. And back at that time, they were having major issues with people dying of certain diseases. And there's a scene in John Adams, the docuseries that HBO did, which I tell you, if you really want to know about the founders from the Boston Massacre up to his death in 1826, it's the most amazing part of history there for the beginning of our country. You need to see it. There's a time where they're trying to beat the illness or the disease that's going on. They actually take parts of it off of someone that has it, cut your child, and you put it inside them, and the doctor, Benjamin Rush, does for their family. But I remember there's a scene in there where they're having to do this as a family, where everybody's sick. Even Abigail Adams is sick, and she's having to take care of all as she's sick, and they just do it as a family. And I think today we do things so separate that let's just quarantine ourselves, and you should quarantine yourselves from as much as possible. But what I did see with our family is when we were sick and we needed to come to the kitchen, we'd put a mask on in our own house. But we'd put a mask on, not because of some kind of political issue or it's just like the flu or whatever. It's that you don't want to give your kids any sickness. If I have a cold, I put my hands over my face. If I have a stomach virus, I don't go into the main house. And so, Linda and I would come in at one time, we'd text and say, hey, we're about to make a sandwich or whatever. And then, hey, let us know when you're done with calling, and then we'll come back and we'll do our thing. But you can survive it. I remember calling your wife and saying, okay, now Linda and I have it. What did you and Ian do? Because we got to take care of it. Your wife said, you know what? You be parents.
Yeah.
And it hit me. We don't have to send our son off or get somebody to come take care of him. You be parents. Now the energy part, if you didn't have any help, good luck.
Yeah. Because if you stay somewhere by yourself, oh my gosh, if you're a person that's single or something like that, I feel for you because that's rough. I mean, it's going to put you down.
I told one of the coaches today, said, what's the worst thing ever? I said, the worst part about it for me was laying in bed, having to go pee. Knowing that I've got to get up and go pee. Yeah. How long can I lay in this bed without going to pee? Because it's going to take so much energy to go pee. And, but I just think that I had no clue how bad it would make you feel.
Yeah.
Of course, we didn't die.
No, I'm here.
Right. And I hear, well, it's got the rate of death is this. Yes. So is the flu. It's this. And so is, obesity kills more people than all of it every year. 420, 430. But doesn't mean that it's not serious. And I did not understand the fatigue, the sickness, how it actually felt. Not only that, what it would put your family into, the situation if you were made, everybody's vulnerable because maybe you didn't wear a mask, or maybe you didn't take care of yourself, or maybe you went to a place you didn't really need to go to. You look back on that and go, man, maybe I should have been more cautious.
Well, I think also my wife, she said I had the man flu, and because she pampered me, she brought me food because we didn't have the chamber. And, but I've had some hard flus probably in the last 6 years. And once I had pneumonia. It wasn't as bad as pneumonia, but it was right behind that. I will say that. And we kind of talked about this before we did this podcast. There was one point at night, both of us experienced, they were like, man, are we actually going to get through this thing?
Oh.
But there was one point that I remember waking up going, dude, this really is all the things I've done in life. My end state's here at the end of the bed. I'm like, and then I had fever and I broke, and I was feeling a whole lot better after that. But both of us, I will say, petrified of it infecting one of the ones we love, or just anybody.
Right.
And for you and your family, and for my family, with knowing I had a newborn coming in, and I would have been at wit's end if that would have happened. And but we really wanted to share that. But we got some other things we want to talk about the corona as well. Is one of the things I do want to talk about real quick. The state of Texas called me after I got the coronavirus. They called me 3 times. I was amazed. And almost the first sentence out of each time their mouth was, Department of Health of the state of Texas was, do you need somebody to go get you groceries?
Wow.
And I said no. And I'm like, wow. Now, that was the message that was all synced together. The message that wasn't synced together, and in the Army, you'll see one thing that we try to do is always sync our messaging so there's no confusion. I asked each one of them, what do I got to do to get back in society after this is all done? First one says you can't go back. Everybody in the household has to go get a corona test. Second one says, no, only the person that has symptoms has to get the corona test, and you may be able to get a corona test, you may not. And the third one says, most likely you won't be able to get the corona test as long as you don't have symptoms after 14 days. I did go back to go get a corona test, and the hospital told me, maybe I had the fever in the last 24 hours. I said, no, not in 4 days. And they go, well, you're good. They gave me a letter and said, I'm done, So what I'll say is the messaging, from what I see, just from old soldier standpoint, the medical field is not unified, and that needed to happen. And where does that to blame? I don't know. When you have different people in there, you always have things that are suspect, and you have a chance for it to dilute or the message not to get right. But I think that's one thing that everybody should have been saying the same thing.
Yeah, and one thing, I hate to go back and digress a little bit, but I forgot to say this. People have asked me, did you get any type of medicine? And I did. I don't think they gave you anything.
I did.
When I first went and got tested and got my results, or when I went and got tested with symptoms, I didn't have that bad of symptoms. So I'm like, no, I didn't want it for more than one reason. Number one, I'm prepping for a competition. I didn't want to take anything in my body but, what my trainer said to take. But after about 3 days, as bad as it was, we contacted the doctor back, and they actually prescribed me 3 things. And those 3 things together, after about 36 hours, I could tell a significant increase in how I felt. And within 3 days, I felt like, hey, let's go.
Yeah.
So I wish that would have been something I got up front. I got hydroxychloroquine, a Z-Pack, and a steroid. And the combination of those 3, man, made me feel a whole lot better. There's this debate on this and that or whatever. I don't care which president, if it was, my favorite or hateful, one I hated the most. When you're sick and you take something that works, I don't care who talked about it. But I really wish early on there would be, that would have been something I would have gotten. I think it would have helped me a little bit early on. But that was the 3 things that I took. People have asked me, did you get anything? And some don't. I talked to a lady at the game the other night that her son plays for our football team. And she got it, and she said that she actually asked her doctor something. They said, look, just, treat the symptoms.
Yep.
And, so that was it.
That's exactly what we got, was treat the symptoms. One thing I want to talk about, and kind of shift a little bit toward this, though, is a little bit about, hey, since 550 BC, we know that there has been the flu, has been out since 550 BC. We still don't have a cure for that. So that's the first thing I want to say, Coach. And the second thing I want to say is, the president developed this Operation Warp Speed, and
which is a good thing.
We're about to have it out on the market here soon with Pfizer.
Absolutely.
I mean, he put Smartest thing in the world, hands down. And I promise you he won't get no credit for it, and he should get a lot of credit for it. He went to the military and got the senior most logistician in the United States Army, General Gus Perna, who freaking hits grand slams every time he steps up and is one of the most confident people there is. And then when he says it's going to be done, you can go ahead and close the book because it's going to be done. And put him in charge of it because he knows every angle of the logistician field in the civilian sector and the military sector.
Well, yeah.
And he put him in charge of it. And they're going to be knocking it out of the park here in a few weeks, man.
Well, that's one of the things that you have to give the president some credit for. Is he's talked about it for a while.
Yeah.
We're going to have we're going to have a vaccination. But not only that, not only are we going to. I remember early on him saying, "How are you going to do it? How are you going to do it?" He said, "We're going to get the military. We're going to have the military ready to distribute this thing as quickly as possible." And that's been talked about for months. And how are they going to do it? They're going to do it that way. Sometimes in a political year. We're going to talk about that in the podcast here and coming up. Things are different in a political year when they're not in a political year. Things are talked about differently, and there are alliances that are made and enemies that are made in a political year that in a non-political year, it's different.
Yeah.
And if this would have been President Bush or if this had been President Obama saying some of the same things that he did about Operation Warp Speed, I'm not talking about some of the things he said early on, which could be interpreted differently. This would be being hailed right now as a great success, a speedy success. Some of these things that are being done, like I said, in warp speed are being done in months. It usually takes multiple years to happen.
Well, there's been talks that, well, why don't he activate the Defense Authorization Act? We did back in March.
Yeah.
He did it because there was a couple of companies that are actually producing mask and ventilators and send them back to China. And like, whoa,
Yes.
You're in America. Come on, stop. So he did that back in March, and CNN even covered it in April. And then Operation Warp Speed, put the general in charge in May.
Yeah.
So you got from May to December, you got Pfizer and Moderna. I can't say it,
Moderna. Yeah.
And Pfizer is going to be out here in a few weeks. And I just watched Dr. Fauci talk about it. One's a 94% success rate, one's a 95% success rate. And he explained, he said, understand this. The measles vaccine is only a 98% success rate.
Right.
He said, this is incredible.
Yeah.
And that's one. And then if you sit there and look at it, we just did something in a matter of a few months. To be honest, the president here, if this comes true in December, this is what he should win the Nobel Peace Prize over.
Yeah.
It's this right here.
There's no doubt.
And no matter if you like him or not, and and he'll move on here after January and all that other stuff. But he deserves this credit because I hate to say, I don't think it would have ever been done before without tapping in to how he tapped in there. He just said, let me cut the BS away and let's go straight to what we know works. And let's go get them guys after it.
Sure.
And let's get the industry charged up and let's take the handcuffs off of them. That's what we did. And my hat's off to him on that. And I hope it saves lives. And I hope nobody has to go through the somebody sitting on yours and my chest again.
Man, that was terrible.
And
the last thing I want to say on this is, November 3rd came around.
Yep.
And the virus did not go away November the 4th.
No, it didn't.
We had a lot of people saying that, what's going to fix the virus? The election. Well, it didn't.
Yep.
And I think looking back 20, 30, maybe even 50 years, as a lot of historians look at different eras before they can really make a good decision on how somebody as a president or a politician handles something. I think this will be one of the things that we'll look back that'll be looked at this way. Wasn't handled well enough from a standpoint of a death numbers, but from a standpoint of getting a vaccine out and getting it out quickly, I think this will be something that will be a clapping that we should give President Trump in a one-term president. A lot of times it takes a lot longer time than 4 years to get a lot of things done. And this president got a lot of things done in the first 4 years. And he was fighting an opposition the whole way.
It was pretty persistent.
And like I said, we're going to talk about this election of 1800 from about 1800 to 1804 is very, very similar. 1800, but 1796 to about 1800 is very similar to what we have going on right now. And a lot of historians believe that the 1800 election was even more divisive than the 1860, 1920, and definitely 2020.
Yep. So one thing I want to say, Coach, before we go, is, hey, we both survived COVID, and we hope every one of you do. But I will say, results vary.
Yes.
You know, results vary. Just take care of yourself. You know, boost your immune system with some vitamin C and anything else that you can, and do the right things.
Yeah, just yesterday we were watching news last night, and I felt very fortunate. There was a guy that's 53 or 54. He was the, I think, the city manager in our city in Troop, and he'd won the Man of the Year award in Troop. He got COVID a couple weeks ago and passed away.
Oh, my goodness!
Close to our same age, doesn't look too much different than us. Same area of the country, and it took his life. So it is real. I know some say, well, the flu takes some. Yeah, the flu does, and so does COVID.
Yeah. So hey, we just want to wish every one of y'all the best. And this isn't a sales pitch, but go get your mask, you know, and get yourself taken care of.
Get your mask.
Yeah.
I tell you what, this is my favorite mug now because it's heavy. Most of the mugs I get, and when I say it's heavy, it's thick. Keeps my coffee warm a whole lot longer than a lot of these other little cups you buy. The shirts are great. Our daughters just got shirts ordered. They all want shirts now.
Cool.
And so I went to the game this weekend. I have to say it real fast. I know we're running short on time. Saw Coach David Ingram.
Yes.
Came to our game, our semifinal game, which we lost, 70-56 to a good team, Fort Bend Chargers out of Houston. But it was great to see Coach Ingram there. Hadn't seen him since the day I graduated in 1989.
Yeah.
He's there with his coach in the bed hat on, and we take some pictures. He said, man, he loves listening to the podcast. And, you know, Coach, thank you so much for doing that. You didn't have to do that. Thank you so much for the support. But also, back to a few years back, thanks so much for mentoring a couple of these guys right here. Man, we think the world of you. And because of you, I ain't killed anybody yet. No, I haven't killed anybody? Well, I can't ask him that. Forget it. Never mind. We're going to talk about that. But because of some great leadership we had as, you know, we had good parents. We also had some good coaches. But coaching him, thanks so much, man. It meant a lot to this old guy.
Well, I agree. Hey, so we got to cut out of here because we talk forever today.
We will.
Yeah. But so from the coach.
Put mine back on. And the vet.
Stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned.